I've been living in Spain for about 5 years now, and there's something that I still to this day cannot do when I'm in Spain, and I'm gonna show you what it is. See all those cars there parked on the street? These cars driving? Well, I still can't drive them. Not because I don't know how to drive, because I do know how to drive, but because I'm in Spain. And this is something I would have had no idea about moving from the US to Spain 5 years ago, and really didn't know all the nuances of it until I was like, okay, I'm really sick of not being able to drive a car. So I'm gonna explain a little bit here. The most transformational things for me, or the things that have been, let's say, the most challenging while I've been living in Spain, have been the transformational journeys in my language. So in language skills, public speaking, communication in general, in both English and Spanish. And the next would be business, starting and growing my own business in a foreign country, which felt really, really scary. And then another has been all of the, legal paperwork, bureaucratical sort of issues and challenges that I've had along the way. And it's something I would have never anticipated coming from the US to Spain. So I could create literally a whole movie about all of the things that I've gone through, all of the struggles and issues with paperwork, and with just having to fill out forms or create forms or find justification for different things, like paperwork wise, that don't even exist in the US. And I had to, prove them to Spain for things with business or things with just everyday life, getting my permanent residency, things like that. So the reason why for an American, when you move to Spain, you don't automatically have the right to a driver's license is the following. So because I am a permanent resident, that means that I have to do everything the same way that a Spanish person would do it when it comes to legal things. So there are no agreements with traffic like DMV. There are no agreements between the US and Spain. So just because you have a US driver's license doesn't mean you can just get it validated over here in Spain and have them give you one. No. If you're a tourist, of course you can come here and, for the 90 days you're here as a tourist, then you're fine. But as soon as you have permanent residency, then you have to do everything as the Spaniards would. And you know what? At first I was really bitter about it because I've had my own driver's license from New York State for almost 11 years. Like, that's a long time. And I think people don't understand, or something that I've seen in Europe in general, is that people don't understand that when you go to the US, if you don't have a car, you literally can't do anything. Like, it doesn't matter unless you're in, New York City or a place that has, a big metro or subway system and you never have to leave that city. You have to have a car. Like, it's impossible otherwise. Most people live in the middle of nowhere. So, it's not like, oh, I've had my driver's license for 11 years and I've never driven, because I do know people in Spain that got their driver's license and haven't driven since then because they don't want to. I love driving, and I've driven my entire life. Well, my entire life. Ever since I turned 16, I've been driving. So it's crazy to feel like, oh, I have to go through all of this again. But you know what? That's the way it is, and it's okay. So what did I have to do to actually sign up for driver's ed? So I had to go to the driving school, just like anyone else would. And the thing that shocked me a lot was how expensive it is to get your driver's license. Because if you think about what like the minimum salary, minimum wages in Spain, which I think it went up a little bit in the past year, but let's say around like 1,000 euros a month is a really normal thing for people to earn. Right? That's like a very normal sort of salary that you can live on. Minimum wage kind of salary, right? So when you actually get your driver's test, people, when they're starting out, if you've never driven a car before, you might spend, 700, 800 euros on just getting your driver's test. So that's like almost someone's entire salary. Or for people that are getting a driver's test, lots of times it's their parents paying for that. So it might be your parents' whole month of salary just to get your driver's license, which seems insane to me, right? But for a lot of people, it's not maybe necessary to have your driver's license all the time. And as with anything in Spain, you have to pay for everything that has to do with paperwork or bureaucracy. So to sign up for driver's ed, to just get access to the online course materials, so it's like they have an online platform. You can go to sessions or classes in person, but I live in quite a small town where there's not really that many people. So they don't really have classes that they're doing in person that frequently, which was better for me because with my work schedule anyways, most of the time I couldn't actually attend those classes. So I preferred it. So I have access to an online platform with a lot of different tests that are taking a very long time. And all of them are based on everything that you see in the manual for driver's ed. So basically going through it myself and listening to online classes that they have and record and that sort of thing. But just to sign up for that and get access to it, I had to pay around 300 euros for that. And then there are other things that you have to do. So before you actually take the theory exam, which I'm about to do in a week from today, before you take the theory exam, you then have to pay another fee of about $50 to get your sort of like your physical, I guess you could call it, where they make sure that you have good like hand-eye coordination, mobility for, grabbing the wheel, maneuvering a car. They check your eyesight. They didn't check my hearing actually, which I thought they were gonna do. Just take your weight, a picture. I didn't know they were gonna take my picture when I did my physical because who gets their picture taken when they get a physical done? But I did get my picture taken and it was not my best hair day, so we shall see how my picture looks when I officially get my driver's license, but that's all right. Another thing that I'm just not gonna be bitter about. It's all right. And then another thing that you have to pay for are the traffic, like taxes and fees for actually just taking the theory exam. So basically like your fees for showing up and taking the exam, which I think were around another 70 euros. So at this point, I'm already at like 420 euros just to do the theory part of the exam. After that, then you can start doing the practical, like driving part, where you take driver's ed classes with, your instructor, maybe someone else in the car. And for each session of 45 minutes, it's like around 30 euros. So someone who's never driven a car before is going to have to take quite a few of those, quite a few hours. So 30 times however many hours that they do that, someone might end up spending, in total 700, 800 euros if they just feel like they need a lot of hours of driving practice and don't feel very comfortable with it, especially since you're learning manual here. Now you do have the option, and this is something they offered to me. They're like, oh, would you like to, get a license and take your driver's test with an automatic car? And I was like, no, who drives an automatic car? Because if you get that license, then you can only drive automatic cars. And no one in Europe has automatic cars. It's like not a thing. The only place where I've ever really seen them is when people go to a car rental place and then they have an option of choosing an automatic car if you want. So yeah, that's how it works. For me, luckily, I will only have to take like the first driving class to show them that I do know how to drive a car and that I do know how to drive manual, because my first car I ever had in the US was luckily a standard. So I'm really thankful for that, because otherwise I would probably be like really nervous. The other thing that maybe makes me a little bit nervous that they might get picky about is my parallel parking, because where I live in the US, I never have to parallel park. So I'll just practice that a couple times on Fernando's car before I actually take the test. I'll just park a couple times to get out all that rustiness that I have with my parallel parking, and we'll be good to go. One thing that you should be aware of if you are going to get your driver's license in Spain and you're in my situation where you already have a driver's license from another country, but you cannot validate it with the DMV here, then take into account that it's going to take you quite a while, like quite a lot of hours of consistent, every day taking practice tests, that sort of thing, to be able to be ready for the theory exam. And if you're someone who works full time, or, for me, I have my own business and I've got a lot of things going on. You've got your personal life on top of it. And one day you need to have off in the week, right? So it's something that has been very energy draining for me to be working, doing things for my business, supporting my clients, doing things for myself, being able to travel for different things, and at the same time, studying for my theory exam. So it hasn't been the most fun thing in the world, but I'm so ready to have it, because I think when we're living in another country, one of the most beautiful things of it is that freedom and autonomy we have of like, look, I did it. I'm living in another place. I'm living in my, dream area of the world. And I want to be able to have all of the freedom and rights that other people have when they're here, to be able to say, hey, I can take a car and just go somewhere. You know, right now, even if I wanted to, I couldn't just, you know, go to another city and rent a car if I went on vacation in Barcelona or somewhere. Like, I couldn't do that because I'm a permanent resident, which is cool, right? I want to be a permanent resident. So I'm very thankful to have the issue that I do have of having to take this exam and pay for it and all of the fees, all of the studying, all of the hours, because it's just another thing that I can check off the list of things that I've done in Spain that I never thought I would ever do. And I'm really proud of myself for, you know, putting in all of the time and effort and just sitting down and doing it, even though I was very bitter about having to start the process. So I'm glad that I'm finally just doing it after 5 years, because who doesn't want to have all the autonomy and freedom in the world when they're living in another country? So that's it. I just wanted to share a little bit more about the behind the scenes things that happen behind the business, behind language and communication, and all of those transformations that have happened for myself and with what I support clients in. I want to talk about another aspect of things too, because this is a huge part of me living abroad and something else that I have to go through on a monthly basis. There's always another thing, and I'm really grateful that I can share those insights with other people, because it was very hard for me to find this information. Actually, when I was just moving to Spain, I didn't find a lot of Americans talking about living abroad in Spain in particular as residents, not as students, because it's a very different situation. One last disclaimer: no matter what country you're from or where you're from, the best thing to always do when you're doing anything that has to do with paperwork or figuring out what can be validated or not is going to the official government offices where they can tell you about it, where they can tell you the rules, where they can look things up themselves. Go to the official government websites. I know it takes a longer amount of time. You might have to sit down like for an hour to find the correct government page because it's not very well organized. You'd think they'd have a budget for that, but that's not where they put their focus on their nice, clean, easy to use government websites. But it's okay. Really look at those sites first. Have in mind what is possible and what's not possible before you actually go to those offices in person, so that you can, you know, actually defend yourself and your situation if you get someone who's a little bit lazy or less knowledgeable when you go to get support in person, because sometimes you might get someone who just doesn't want to do their job. So I know from personal experience, so just do your own research first, then go places, double check before you sign up, before you actually start any paperwork, and that's all. Let me know if you'd like to hear more things like this about the behind the scenes of living in Spain, apart from, you know, having my own business and supporting others with their communication and English, accent, fluency, public speaking goals. I would love to make more, because this is just my day-to-day. Bye, and hopefully next time I got a driver's license that I can show you.